Dear young brothers and sisters of the new generation of Hindustan, Namaskar. Let us continue our exploration of the true history of Hindustan. In today's episode, I would like to show you the pictures of some of the important architectural glory of Hindustan, which will demonstrate how much was the technological capacity and ability of our ancient engineers in construction, which is, of course, related to every type of knowledge, such as precise mathematics, physics, so on and so forth. And the reason for this episode is that there is a large majority of our citizens who still believe that it was a blessing that the British came to Hindustan, or it was a blessing that the Arabs came to Hindustan, and they brought culture, civilization, so on and so forth. But once you see these monuments, the photographs I'm going to demonstrate to you, and if you simply reflect, you can understand the truth and the facts. So at least you, the members of the new generation, can have a different outlook, a rational outlook. That's it. There are many people still saying that if the British had not come to Hindustan, we could not have the railway. If the British had not come to Hindustan, we could not have the possibility to learn English. Just imagine what English are taught to the population of Hindustan. The British needed some servants and some slaves or some assistants, and they taught English just sufficient for that level, and that is still being continued. If English is spoken in the state of Kerala, I would like to say it is not English, it's a question of Manglish, including mine. I'm not making me an exception, including mine. What was taught to me as English was not true English, it was Manglish. And when you go to Tamil Nadu, it may be Tamilish. Or to Karnataka, it may be Karnadish, like that. All over the Hindustan, English is spoken in a very ugly manner. And just think about the Chinese. When they speak English, they speak pure English as it should be spoken. And there are still people believing that if the Christian missionaries were not arrived in Hindustan, it was a tragic situation. If you simply ask just one question, why all those people came to Hindustan? If there was nothing to be taken away from Hindustan, nobody would have come. So the Arabs came, the Mughals came, the Europeans came. Why? Because there was abundant treasure and wealth in our great nation for these people to loot, to plunder and take away. And that's the only reason why all of them came. This fact, at least you, members of the young generation, shall not forget. You shall not forget. And only if you are convinced of this pure truth, you will have the absolute esteem of being a son or a daughter of Hindustan. And then only the nation can develop. Invaders from the Arab world and those from the Western world came to Hindustan proclaiming that they were chosen people of a God called Allah and another God called Jehovah, to an earthly heaven where its people believed Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam, Loga Samasta Sukhino Pavandu, Vasudhaiva Kudumbagam. And these chosen people destroyed that harmony in the name of God and looted the whole wealth. You can just see the historical fact that even though the Arabs and the Mughal had destroyed and looted almost every part of the North India, still until AD 1600, Hindustan had almost 27% of the global GDP In spite of all the lootings happened, and with the arrival of the British and Portuguese, the rest were also taken away. And still there are people believing that the arrival of the British was a blessing. The reason is none of us were taught in the schools the true history of Hindustan. So at least you, my dear brothers, young brothers and sisters of the new generation, shall reflect into these facts. So in order to kindle your reflection, in order to prick your emotion, to have a look to the past, to understand the true history of Hindustan, I'm going to show you the pictures of some of the architectural glory of Hindustan. Just because once you see them, and once you might have seen many of them, of course, but once you see them or recollect in this episode the importance of those monuments or those architectural glory, you can have an idea that they were not constructed by the British or the Arabs. Okay, the Arabs constructed monuments such as Qutb Minar, the Taj Mahal, etc. But hundreds of years before that, there were some monuments in Hindustan which demonstrate that we had well-prepared expert engineers who had the brain and imagination to construct those monuments. And if they were not having absolute expertise in mathematics, physics, geometry, all those fields of knowledge, they could not have constructed such monuments. So let us see some examples for the architectural and technical glory of Hindustan before the arrival of the invaders. I hope some of you had the opportunity to go and visit this temple. There's a Kailasa temple near the Ellora caves, which was constructed between AD 756 and 773. And this temple was and still is abandoned without any proper restoration. Those who have already visited this temple know that all these statues of elephants and all other type of statues are of the original size. And just imagine the calculations, the geometry, etc. behind the construction of these temples, and compare it to all the beauty of the Taj Mahal. But here there are something more valuable, something more precious as far as the capacity and the knowledge of our ancient engineers are concerned. And Taj Mahal also was built by our engineers. This is a part of the Ellora cave temples. And if you watch every particular of these constructions, you will understand how much expert were those who constructed these. And these were not constructed with the aid of the British or the Arabs or any of the invaders. And now let us see some of the important temples which were restored, rebuilt, or modified during the last hundreds of years. Here we have the Virupaksha temple of Karnataka. Just imagine the technology and the expertise behind constructing this temple. The same is here also. See, every piece, every part, or every centimeter of this construction, how it was squared. The Mahadeva temple in Gujarat. Here we have the Chhatarpur temple in Delhi. It is renovated and revamped. But the original temple was very, very old. It's another example. I'm showing you these pictures just to direct your attention to these type of constructions which were present in Hindustan before the arrival of anybody from outside to help us or to give us technical contribution. This is the Shiva temple of Tanjavur, the Chittagong temple of Rajasthan. Just see how each centimeter of these constructions are taken care of. Here we have the Arunachaleswar temple of Tiruvannamalai, and here is the Somanath temple of Gujarat. It was from this temple tons of gold, silver, and jewels were continuously looted by the Arabs. We will come to those history later. And here we have Aryabhadeshwara temple of Kumbakonam. There is no British knowledge behind these temples. Here we have the Lakshmana temple of Khajuraho in Madhya Pradesh. And this is the Sringeri temple of Mangalore. Again, Varadaraja Perumal temple of Kanchipuram, the Lakshmi Devi temple of Karnataka, Govindaraja Swami temple of Tirupati, Kandariya Mahadava temple of Madhya Pradesh, the Meenakshi temple of Madurai. And when we talk about Meenakshi temple, just as in the case of Somanath temple, do you know how many camels were used by the Arabs to take away the treasure, gold, silver, precious stones, jewels, etc. from this temple during the period of Veerapandya Kattabomma and Sundarapandya Kattabomma, when they were the rulers of that area? If you don't know, remember that the Arabs had to use almost 2,000 camels to load and take away the treasures looted from this Meenakshi temple of Madurai. And here we have the Padmanabha Swami temple in Kerala. And there also, the deposit of gold and silver are still there, but we don't know how many years again it will remain there, because it was recently discovered a couple of years ago. So I hope you could conceive the reason why I have presented the pictures of these architectural glory, because at least you shall get you free from the belief that it was the British, it was the Christian missionaries, it was the Arabs who brought culture and civilization to Hindustan. Of course, the Arabs and the Mughals made a lot of constructions similar to what we have seen. But those constructions were made after destroying what was previously constructed in their positions. And this is the fact. And as far as culture is concerned, I don't know how many of you know that once the construction of Taj Mahal was completed, Shah Jahan cut away the hands of the expert engineers and architects so that no similar construction shall be done thereafter. I don't know how many of you know that story, and that's a fact. Anyway, these pictures, at least this can help to reflect about the past of our great nation Hindustan. Surely many of you had visited all these temples, and in that case, once you see this episode also, it may help you in some way or other to share this information with your friends and relatives, so that the culture as it is can be changed slowly, and each of you can become 100% citizen of Hindustan, with 100% proud of being a citizen of Hindustan. And that is the scope of these episodes. So thank you very much for your kind attention to my words. See you in the next episode. Jai Hind.